Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Now this right over here is exactly what I like to see. If you say you're gonna do something, if you say that you stand for something, if you believe that something wrong has been done and it must be investigated, you can't just be all talk, you need to actually walk the walk, you need to do something about it. Well, finally, at last, it seems as though there's a Republican representative willing to frickin' make it happen. That's Anna Paulina Luna. You might have seen my video, I think from maybe 2.5 weeks ago. The video is pretty popular. The thumbnail was titled, "We Will Pursue Him." After Attorney General Merrick Garland denied to cooperate with 2 subpoenas, Anna Paulina said this.
And the reason why we're here today is because the Attorney General thought he was above the law and did not comply not just with 1 subpoena, but with 2 subpoenas. Those are subpoenas from both Chairman Jordan and Chairman Comer. And so with that, Chairman, I just wanted to let you all know, as my colleagues, because I'm sure we will debate this on the floor, I fully intend in 10 days after this passes out of committee to hold Attorney General Garland in inherent contempt of Congress if the Department of Justice does not do their job.
Well, they've officially done it. They've held him in contempt. I guess let's just use their own words against them. No one is above the law. Let's have a conversation about it. Let's talk about why it matters. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so Anna Paulina Luna, she planted the seed. She said, let's do it. And last week, Speaker Mike Johnson rallied the GOP House and said, let's make it happen.
This week on the House floor, as you heard, Chairman Jordan and our leader and our whip discussed, will be holding Attorney General Garland in contempt of Congress. He is refusing to comply with a lawful subpoena, and that's a problem under Article 1. And as a former litigator, I can tell you, and many of us know intuitively, that when you have a printed transcript that someone transcribed, you don't know with 100% certainty whether it actually lines up with the audio recording, and that's why this is so important. The Attorney General doesn't get to decide whether he hides the tape, and that's what will be determined here.
Fast forward today, they actually did it. The Republican-controlled House on Wednesday narrowly voted to hold Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress, a major escalation in the GOP's war against a justice system the party has portrayed as unfairly targeting Donald Trump. Merrick Garland has been held in contempt. The double standard must end. You know, Merrick Garland has gone on and on with all of his ridiculous excuses, trust in the rule of law, a bunch of ridiculous empty platitudes, but at the end of the day, it's really quite simple. The DOJ decided not only to prosecute Donald Trump over the holding of his own presidential documents that he has the ultimate authority over thanks to the Presidential Records Act, but even beyond that, they decided to make a whole spectacle of the whole ordeal. They raided his home, took a bunch of photos, made this whole thing, but then we learned, thanks to some helpful documents, that as they were doing that, they knew that Joe Biden also had documents, classified documents, illegally, from all the way back from his time as a senator. But they only chose to raid Donald Trump's home ahead of a crucial midterm election. Curious. Then once it's time to investigate Joe Biden over his illegal holding of these documents, Robert Hur says, won't do it. He's too old, frail, he's got a poor memory. He wouldn't even be able to stand trial. And so Joe just gets off the hook. Kind of interesting coming from the no one is above the law, equal justice people. Now Republicans, all they want is the interview recording. The conversation between Robert Hur and Joe Biden that made Robert Hur come to the conclusion that Joe Biden was in such poor health he simply couldn't even stand trial. But Merrick Garland is refusing to hand it over because law and order or something. And so he's refused to comply with 2 subpoenas. The argument that he's making is that a lack of transparency, especially in this situation, is a crucial element to protecting the important impartial work that they're doing. How backwards is that? We need to preserve trust in the system by hiding everything, keeping it confidential, and not revealing why one president got off with it and the other president is being indicted into frickin' oblivion. Hold him in contempt, for Pete's sakes. At this point, Congress should impeach this guy. He's supposed to answer to Congress. Congress has subpoenaed him. Hand over the tapes. That's the way it works. Democrats are going on and on and on trying to justify his actions, but even frickin' Jake Tapper isn't buying any of it.
The last 3 of the last 5 attorneys general have been found in contempt of Congress. Eric Holder didn't turn over information relating to the Fast and Furious mishap, that sting operation. Attorney General Bill Barr was held in contempt of Congress by a Democratic Congress for not turning over information, the unredacted Mueller report. And now Attorney General Merrick Garland for not turning over the audio. A citizen who doesn't have a dog in the fight might say, It seems to me as though the legislative branch is trying to do oversight of the executive branch, and the executive branch keeps giving whoever's in charge of Congress, the executive branch consistently gives the finger to the House. I assume you don't see it that way, but there is a consistency in these 3 contempt of Congress votes.
Well, there's only a consistency in the fact that all 3 attorney generals have now been held in contempt by Congress, but the situations and the circumstances are very different. There was no basis for Bill Barr to withhold the unredacted report from Congress. He could identify none if it were an issue of classified or secret information.
But there's really no basis for the Justice Department to not give the audio recordings to Congress either.
There is no basis for Joe Biden's DOJ to withhold the Hur tapes. They have been legally subpoenaed, and it ends there. And again, let's stick on that same hypocrisy. This is coming from the exact same people going on and on about law and order and no one being above the law. Well, then why is Merrick Garland above the law? Well, very simply because Merrick Garland is once again acting politically. He doesn't want Republicans to get their hands on a damaging audio file of the current president ahead of the election, but he was certainly okay with his DOJ raiding former President Donald Trump's home during the 2022 midterms, huh? Corruption and hypocrisy of the highest order. You know, it brings me back to the same point I always make. I never want to be lectured to about law and order and no one being above the law by Democrats ever again. Just like I never want to hear a word about democracy ever again from anybody on the left wing. No one is above the law. Yeah, no one's above the law except for Democrats. Everybody's held to the most stringent and biased interpretation of the law if they're Republicans, but if they're Democrats, well, there's simply no basis. Let's really point out that hypocrisy. Here's what Democrats were saying when people they didn't like were defying their congressional subpoenas.
Do you think people who refuse to comply with congressional subpoenas should be prosecuted by the Justice Department and at the end of the day go to jail?
Yes.
When you are subpoenaed to testify in court or in Congress, you show up, period.
Either we are all equal before the law or none of us is. This is the essence of our democracy.
The rule of law applies to everyone and no one is above that law.
Mr. Bannon stands alone in his complete defiance of our subpoena. That's not acceptable. No one in this country, no matter how wealthy or how powerful, is above the law.
When you get a subpoena, the law requires you to comply.
No one is above the law.
Hypocrisy and corruption of the highest order, just as I stated. I think the point has been made. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys on this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.